Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever read a book and felt like you completely knew the characters, inside and out? Like they were literally real people sitting right next to you? Well, authors don't usually just hand over a tidy little list telling us exactly who a character is. Instead, they leave behind these brilliant trails of clues for us to piece together a character's true identity. Today, we're putting on our detective hats to investigate the 4 elements of storytelling. We're going to uncover exactly how to derive meaning from a text, turning you into an absolute master at reading between the lines. So let's dive into this. We're going to frame ourselves as literary investigators on the hunt for hidden evidence. We are trying to solve one primary mystery here. How do we uncover a character's true personality? Because, just like in real life, you can't always trust a simple surface-level description. You really have to observe, gather the evidence, and analyze it. And the most powerful clues left behind by any author are the 4 elements of storytelling. Here is our game plan to solve this case today. First, we'll examine the 4 clues, which are those core story elements. Second, we'll decode some words to see the difference between literal and implied meanings. And finally, we will step into the interrogation room for a quick practice run. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the 4 clues. We're going to crack open our primary case study, the classic fable, The Lion and the Gnat, to hunt for these clues. Now, our very first clue in the 4 elements of storytelling is dialogue. Simply put, dialogue is just a conversation between 2 or more people in the story. As a literary detective, you can always spot it hiding right there between the quotation marks. When a character opens their mouth to speak, they're handing us a massive piece of evidence about how they view the world and how they treat others. Let's look at a piece of evidence straight from our case study. The text says, "Away with you, vile insect," said the lion angrily. I mean, this brilliantly illustrates dialogue in action. You can practically hear the theatrical, angry flair of the lion speaking. By paying close attention to what the lion says and how he says it within those quotation marks, we instantly get a feel for his arrogance, his temper, and really his complete lack of respect for the tiny gnat. But talk is cheap, right? That brings us to the second clue in the 4 elements of storytelling, action. Action is defined simply as what a character does. If dialogue is what they say, action is what they actually follow through on. Think of actions as the physical fingerprints of a character. We can easily identify them by hunting for the verbs or action words in a sentence. After all, a character might lie with their words, but their actions, they almost always reveal the truth. Let's pull another piece of evidence from the story to see this in motion. The text reads, "He flew at the lion and stung him sharply on the nose." Look really closely at the words being used here. The verbs flew and stung are the direct, active evidence of exactly what the gnat is doing. He isn't just talking a big game from a safe distance, he is physically launching an attack against a massive beast. That action tells us absolute volumes about his fearless nature. Moving on, our third clue is emotion. Now we're looking for internal evidence, which is how a character subjectively responds or feels about something happening in the story. We aren't just looking at outside physical actions anymore. We're peering directly into their mind and their heart. Are they happy, sad, terrified, furious? Recognizing emotion is absolutely key to understanding a character's true motivations. Let's go back to our source text. It gives us this fantastic quote. "The lion was roaring terribly because he was mad with rage." Notice how the phrase "mad with rage" perfectly exposes the lion's intense internal emotional state for us to record in our notes. He isn't just mildly annoyed by an insect buzzing around his head. His subjective response is just absolute, overwhelming fury. And finally, we reach the 4th element, character traits. A character trait is the underlying personality of a person, animal, or even an object presented as a person in a story. By combining the dialogue and the actions we just found, we can deduce the final verdict, which is their actual personality. Basically, we use those first few clues to successfully solve the mystery of this 4th one. Let's look at the gnat again to put this all together. He confidently declares, "Do you think that I am afraid of you because they call you king?" When the gnat says this, it gives us all the evidence we need to conclude that he has a very bold and boastful character trait. I mean, he's just a tiny insect, yet he's openly challenging the king of the jungle. The spoken dialogue firmly proves the underlying personality trait. Okay, moving on to section 2, decoding words. This is where we look at literal versus implied meanings. As top-tier literary detectives, we also really need to understand the double identities of words. It all depends on how an author utilizes them. Contrast the flat, direct dictionary definition of a denotative snake with the expressive, implied feeling of a connotative snake who betrays his friends. Denotative meaning is the explicit, literal definition. It's exactly what the word is in real life. So a denotative snake is simply a legless reptile slithering across the grass. But connotative meaning? That's the associative, secondary meaning suggested by a word. If we say the new student is a snake because he betrays his friends, we're implying he's untrustworthy. Grasping both the literal and the implied meanings is how you truly read between the lines.
All right, it's time for section 3, the interrogation room. Let's do a few practice questions.
Time to test your skills. Here is your first piece of evidence to review. The text reads, Ella always tells the truth, even when it is difficult. Now, does this sentence primarily show dialogue, action, emotion, or a character trait? Take a second to look at the evidence and make your guess before we reveal the verdict. Remember, look for quotes, look for specific physical movements, or look for underlying personality. Okay, if you guessed character trait, you totally nailed it. The crucial point here is that telling the truth describes Ella's underlying personality of honesty. Notice there are no quotation marks here to indicate dialogue, it's not a singular physical action happening in the heat of the moment, and it isn't an internal feeling of sadness or joy. It is just a fundamental, consistent part of who she is as a person. Let's try another one, this time focusing on decoding those word layers we talked about. Read this sentence. My father is the backbone of our family. Is the word backbone being used in a denotative, literal way or a connotative, implied way? Ask yourself, is the father a literal body part that supports a skeleton, or is this phrase trying to paint a picture for us? And the answer is connotative. It's connotative because it strongly implies he is the main support of the family. It's just like calling a baby the sunshine of a home. It implies joy rather than, literal UV rays. If the sentence had instead said, the backbone supports the body, well, that would be the denotative, literal dictionary definition. Now, let's put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Take a look at this matrix analyzing a short paragraph about a girl named Grace. The paragraph says, I know you can do it, said Grace with a smile. She patiently showed her younger brother how to solve the math problem. Her brother felt happy and confident after learning the solution. Grace is always helpful and caring. What's really cool about this matrix is how a single, super short paragraph about Grace contains all 4 clues perfectly laid out for our investigation. We have dialogue, hiding right there in the quotes, action when she physically shows him the math problem, emotion when her brother feels happy and confident, and the clear character traits of being helpful and caring. It's the 4 elements of storytelling all working in perfect harmony. Case closed. You have officially learned how to spot the 4 elements of storytelling and decode hidden meanings like a pro. So here's a thought for you. The next time you read a book or binge a new show, ask yourself, are the characters actively telling you who they are, or are they hiding their true traits in plain sight? Keep that detective hat close and never stop reading between the lines.